Yam. Hello YouTubers and welcome to another episode. Got a pretty busy day today, but first we have to get Yam out on the world to get some energy out as always. But doing one of his favourite loops this morning and also experimenting with the camera here too. So hopefully it all works out. Doing some different picture profiles, S-Log2 if anyone's curious, but let's get into the walk. Okay, and now it's time. Has the ceiling got lower? Now it's time to feed Yam, and then I think it's time to get in the air. Call you. Good boy. Go on then. Go on. Yam. Yam. And now it's time to try and cut Yam's nails, and he's not really a fan of it. Oh yes, you do need your nails clipped, young man. Just gonna have to go here. Oh, no! No, Yam, stop it. There you go, Yam. Was that so difficult? And we survived, and now I need to try and get off of Yam. Ready? Bye, Yam. Was that great fun? He enjoyed it. But it's just such a big dog, and he's so strong that literally if you... Like, obviously I was on top of him, but it's more of a... Like, I'm not sitting on him as much as just... He knows that he can't really move too far. Now he wants to go to bed. Oh, Yam. Oh. Bye, Yam. Yeah, I'm not sitting on him, putting weight on him. It's more like, okay, if you try and move, I'm going to try and prevent you to move. Just to try and cut his nails. Because they are very, very sharp. And as you can see, let's see if we can see. Oh, Yam. But that's just what happens when you get a big puppy. And it's almost, speaking of puppy, Yam's first birthday. Yam, isn't it almost your first birthday? Is it almost your first birthday? When do you stop calling your dog a puppy? But now, I don't think we're erging first. Or erging now even. I think we're actually going to go to the shop and stay and get a mask on, get the gloves on. And maybe I'll try and share the experience of just getting in and out of the shop. But basically we're trying to do as little shops as possible. Maybe one every 2 weeks currently, I think we're kind of getting to. We're trying to do 2.5, but we've ate all the food. So we actually have to go to the shops today. So shopping today and a little bit of, oh yeah. Oh. He's there. Slaver here. Now let's get to the shops. Dobby, excuse me. Excuse me, no. Dobby.
Take the chicken!
He wants the chicken. Go on, go to the back.
Ready?
Go to the back, Dobby.
There's a saddle in.
There's a saddle in the back. Go on, Dobby, ride the saddle. Oh my goodness, so it was supposed to be a smooth montage, and it was not smooth. But now we've made it into the car, brought the big camera here, and then I'm armed with some sterilizing so that when we are back into the car, we're going to get back into the car, or get close to the car, we can sterilize the
hands
and the phone, so that we're not trying to infect stuff.
Yes!
So let's drive and then shop. Oh, yeah.
I was knocked down, heard the countdown through the haze in the face of defeat, yeah. I was ruled out with no bailout on my own, all alone, left to bleed out. But I rose up from the ground, just like I was spellbound. All the odds were against me. So I picked up the pace, and now I'm in the race. Give me some space.
So we've got our gloves and our mask on. Mask, not 100% necessary, but we had them in the house just from anyway.
Never be too safe.
And so it's more so we're not touching our face rather than anything. Anyway, but now, finally.
I'm about to explode. So I've been told that I should fold and give in. I can't win in this game, no. But you can hear me laughing. I'm the new thing in this field. You should kneel instead of me now. Yeah, I rose up from the dead. Your words inside my head. All the odds were.
And we've made it out of the shop. Do you ever just go to the shop and then wish you weren't at the shop? Dobby knows what I'm talking about. Everything has now been sanitized, wiped down, and it's time to head back to the house for a lovely ergometer. Oh yeah! And we've made it onto the erg in the Yam Cave version 2 with my race socks on, because once again, this sock fairy has stolen all of my socks and I have about 2 pairs left. But luckily, new pairs are in the mail. Oh yeah! But this workout, something a little bit different. Not a steady state workout, more of a building through the rates, building through the intensities workout. A little bit of transportation through the edges, or at least through the training zones. But this one's always a good one. Ends up being a sort of, you start low and then that end bit you start really high, and it's like first bit slow, then you're building up. So it's rather than just boom, you're trying really hard, it's just a constant eke forward, if that makes sense. And then each bit you feel pretty ready for, unless you're blowing and then you don't feel ready at all. So let's get to it. And we've finished the erg, a little push towards the end. Just kind of firing the engine a little bit as I've done. At the very least, as long as we've been in isolation, no, that's wrong, because the 2K. So ever since the 2K, which was 5 weeks ago, there's been quite a lot of steady state. And like I spoke about yesterday, building that aerobic base needs a lot of time and a lot of steady state. But sometimes, regardless of the ambitions of doing steady state and then doing high intensity, even if you did one all the time or the other all the time and you're doing really well and you're really enjoying it, just changing it up slightly every so often can really benefit that mental state, the mental fatigue, the mental, you guessed it, motivation. Because remember, variation is one of the keys to motivation. Maybe some new merch coming soon, as I've probably said that about 48 times an episode. But I thought today we would talk about my rowing technique. The technique that I use on the rowing machine, because over isolation there's been a lot of indoor rowing, or at least for me there has been. And a lot of comments about how my indoor rowing machine technique is rubbish. And it's a really interesting point, because people are saying it's bad because they're comparing it to water, on the water rowing. And I think, or at least my opinion, let me know in the comments below if you disagree, that there is a technique used on the rowing machine that can get the best speed in the rowing machine, and then there's a technique for on the water rowing that can get better speed for on the water. And since I've been on the machine for at the very least the last 6 weeks, not been on the water for a while, I've been developing my indoor rowing machine technique. Not so much going out every session and saying, this is how I'm going to row, that's how I'm going to change this with my legs, this with my shoulders, this with my arms, but more so just slowly my body is subconsciously adapting to how I'm pushing on the machine. And one big thing that basically the concept to rowing machine, no matter if it's a model 1, model 50, or when the new concept 3 comes out, going to use, or always will use, or always has used, length to determine your split. The longer you row with the same, if you apply the same amount of force for, say, 10 centimeters, then you apply the same amount of force for 20 centimeters, you're going to get a faster split on that 20 centimeter pull. And that is where I think a big part of the rowing machine technique comes into play. When you're doing, say, a rate 20-30, a lot of people see sort of techniques that are pulling the handle way up here. I am definitely one for pulling it higher than normal, but for those low rate pieces, getting the length can be a bit easier than applying more force. So if you can apply more force and apply more length, then you're on to a winner. But when you transfer that over to the water, no go. Do not try to row, well, some techniques there are out there, but if you're parallel to the boat and your handle is by your chin, it's probably not going to do very well. There has been previous countries that have tried the extra layback, but don't get confused with layback and that sort of pulling the handle up to the chin way back here. But all of that really applies to pieces with low rate. And really, I would say low rate is below sort of 24 maybe, or around there. Obviously, it can vary. But you can't really use that extra long length technique coming away back here when the rate climbs up into the 30s. And that's why, so for example, in Paris in the Indoor Rowing Championships, my rowing was very short. The previous 2Ks were shorter. And then I think the 2K in isolation, I think that was the longest I rowed in a 2K. There's a couple of reasons why I row like that on the rowing machine. And again, this may be slightly different to what would be done in the water, but this is probably closer to what you would see in the water versus the lower rate technique on the rowing machine. So one of the biggest reasons I rowed a bit shorter on the rowing machine, especially when the rate climbed up, was because I felt like I wasn't strong enough to row those long length. I am tall, I'm 6'9", so to row from cage to finish, or basically one end of the slide to the other end of the slide, it meant it felt I needed to be stronger. My cardio, my high intensity anaerobic threshold ability was pretty much outweighing my strength. So therefore, if I could just boost up the rate, take more strokes at the same force, then I would get the same speed than if I was stronger, but took less strokes, if that makes sense. So that's why over the past sort of 3-4 months, if you look back at the first 2K, I was short. I think that was 56 or 54. And then there was a 54, was shorter or shortish. This Paris one was extra short because I ended up rating 55 because I got really excited and just tried to have a lot of fun in that event. Just more, I got a little bit overwhelmed with the event, but I was just having fun with that event. But anyway, then there's a 2K, my PB 2K in the kitchen behind the Yam K V2. It wasn't much longer and I can still literally row longer, but I felt like the strength work that I had been doing since the Indoor World Championships helped me row that bit longer and keep a little bit of a high rate. So it was 38 versus Paris was a 42. plus being that little bit longer, which led to a PB. And then there's the big one, the arms. So obviously you can keep your arms straight on the rowing machine. Obviously you can also keep your arms bent if you wanted to on the rowing machine. But really, realistically, the rowing machine is not on the water rowing. And so when you're on the rowing machine, you're heading up to the catch. It's very different to heading up to the catch on the water. When you're on the water, you can back the blade in, almost still pushing that arm straight, back the blade in, or at least get the blade the speed of the water, and then change direction. You almost don't stop. You stop. You have to stop and change direction, but you don't stop. With the rowing machine, you have to change the direction of the cogs, the flywheel. I think that's the right terminology, but you basically have to stop and change direction and then pull the handle towards you, rather than when you're on the water, the momentum of the boat going one way and then the water going the other way, and the hooking of the blade pulling that. It's almost like that is pulling your arm straight versus you having to force your arm straight and then push against your arms and hook onto the flywheel, hook onto the cog. So I see a lot of people that keep their arms straight lifting with the shoulders, and then for me, I don't really lift with the shoulders, but I grab with the arms. And yes, I do realize I do grab with the arms. And for me, like I said, that's my rowing machine technique, and I could improve it a little bit, but I don't think the biggest improvements will come from keeping my arms straight. The biggest thing about the arms that people say that I should stop rowing with my arms bent is my arms will blow up before my legs. Yes, I am bending my arms at the catch to pull the handle away from the cage, but it's not a case of me pulling the handle, if that makes sense. It's more just that picking up the slack, so where, like I said, when the blade hooks up on the water, that's the slack. But I'm picking up the slack just with a little bit of a tense, and then it's a hanging sensation like I would on the water. And that's where I see some people pick up the slack by lifting a little bit here, some people pick the slack up with the bending of the arms, and that's what I do. And yes, you can pick up the slack through other ways, but like I said, it's much easier to pick up the slack on the water, just with the momentum of the boat, the hooking of the blade, than it is on the rowing machine. And so for you, if you want to see, oh, maybe I should bend my arms more, maybe I should lift with the shoulders, I really think there is more to the rowing machine technique than just bent arms or just one thing. I think, well, obviously, like anything, there's a process to the whole thing, and it depends on you as an individual. Maybe your arms are the only thing you have to work on. But for me, as we saw from the shorter drive, the shorter recovery of the 2Ks at the start of the year, and then getting slightly longer and longer, getting faster and faster, as a result of getting stronger, that is where I want to keep improving, making sure I can gain the strength to just edge a centimetre or 2 centimetres every stroke, which, like I said, a big part of the equation to calculate speed on the rowing machine is length. So if I can just get that little bit longer by being fitter, mostly being stronger, that'll get me more speed on the rowing machine, not necessarily on the water. And that's why I said at the start, I think there's quite a big difference between on the water rowing versus on the erg rowing, but the erg is an indoor rowing machine and rowing is a rowing sport. So then there's the other argument of, well, you don't want to be practicing something that you're not going to be doing on the water, and that is a valid argument, but I think that I can sort of differentiate between the two, but it has been quite a while, so I might get on the water and eat my words and be bending my arms all the time and having to relearn how to row on the water. But like I said, I think there's that big of a gap. It's almost two different sports where you have that moving water, you have the boat, you have the blade hooking up to eliminate the things that people may say may be wrong with, especially my technique. But hopefully that made sense. A little bit of a rant, and I think I'm going to be making more videos on indoor rowing machine technique for sort of really textbooks, so not including bent arms, but just that sort of catch, drive, recovery. What do they all mean? Really drilling down, making it simple, and then building up, saying if you've just got a rowing machine in isolation or want to get a rowing machine, seeing what you should kind of look like on the rowing machine, rather than, I've got a video before of people that I've seen in the gym using the erg as a bicep machine or as a sleigh for a sleigh ride. But that will be it for today's episode, Yam Squad. Before I yammer on anymore, and as always, remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button, and I will see you tomorrow. Is this Hump Day? We've made it through Hump Day, Yam Squad. Oh yeah! And I'll see you tomorrow for a Throwback Thursday. Oh yeah!